Recommended path to the NBA, I think, starts really at the grassroots level. Even when you're beginning as a broadcaster, for that matter, any level, whether it's the NBA, college, I think the more games you do, the better. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone has a different story. So I'm just going to very briefly tell you that when I was a little boy, this is what I wanted to do. And so I remember I took a tape recorder when it was a tape recorder, not a cassette, but a tape recorder. And I would go to my local high school when I was in elementary school and junior high, and I would do play by play off a high school game sitting in the stands. I would go down to the basement and do play by play off the television of games, and I would prepare like if I was calling an NBA game today. I would get the stats. There was no internet back then. There was no cell phones, no social networking, and stats were hard to come by because when I grew up as a kid, NBA stats, NFL stats, they weren't published every day the way they are now. So you really had to dig and do your homework. But there's there's no substitute for actually seeing an event live and taking the resources you have and doing play by play.
Um, how has your play-by-play job changed from when you first started up in the stands?
Well, when I first started in the stands, it was very archaic, to say the least. I mean, it was, as I mentioned, two small reel to reels on a tape recording device, and you would hit the record button and the play button at the same time. And if they jammed, you were in big trouble. The microphone was horrible. But at the same time, it wasn't about that. It was about learning the nuances of doing play by play, following the ball, making sure you stay on top of what's happening, reporting what you see. And as the years progressed, and again, this is pre-internet days, and where you saw one college game a week, maybe at the most two. And I did DePaul for 14 years. I did the University of Michigan for 4 before I entered the NBA, was able to do the Raptors for 10 now in my 4th year with the Bulls, is that prior to that, even early DePaul days, I mean, we didn't have a plethora of college basketball games televised. And so what you had to do is you really had to dig deep and you had to go to the basketball office and you had to view the opponent with an assistant coach on reel to reel film. And it was film, it wasn't tape, it was film. And that's how I did my prep work back then. And then all of a sudden, the explosion hit in the mid and the late 90s regarding the internet and cell phones and access to games, and more games were televised, and it just mushroomed.